So,
Go to bed.
I know this question is a bit out there for some.
Not for
but-
this group.
Oh, good. So I've read a book about mermaids, and I was just wondering if mermaids are real, or if they've existed, or if they're just beautiful fairy tales, and same with unicorns. Okay.
This is what happens when you're too happy all the time.
Okay.
We're in the deep, deep archives. Wait a little bit here. The most important thing to understand is that when we say, if you have the ability to imagine it, then you have the ability to manifest it fully. And so there are a lot of things that have flowed into the consciousness of humans and been translated by humans into a form of reality. But what you want to call reality, what most of you want to call reality, is the sort of thing where nobody questions its existence. In other words, if a unicorn came romping through those doors and up on the stage, most of you would want to examine it closely. In other words, because it isn't part of your reality, meaning that it's not the human consciousness that is living on the planet has not reached a state of expectation to allow that to show itself in that full manifested form. And yet the evolution of all species, the evolution of all things, but let's talk about the evolution of all species, really is about life causing you to hold a desire and then finding a way not to resist it until it becomes part of your evolution. There have been so many physical beings who have participated in your time-space reality, and there are those who are able to travel interdimensionally. In other words, your imagination is a very powerful thing. Your imagination is not necessarily a departure from reality. The reason that we were not just willing but eager to talk with you about this is because we or no one has any business proclaiming anything that is in your consciousness as not real. And in the moment that you decide that you don't need everybody else or anybody else to agree with you about its existence, then it can show itself to you. That really is the conversation that we're having here all day, every day. There are a lot of people that have a hard time thriving in a bad economy, but there are those who thrive most in a bad economy. There are those who have a hard time thriving when there is a physical epidemic, and yet there are those who thrive even amidst epidemics. You are individual creators of your individual realities, but most of you have become so integrated in what's going on around you, and more important, so interested in getting others' agreement about what you think. This is the thing that will trip you up more than all other things. In other words, life shows you a pattern, and then you say, oh yes, this is something I know, but you don't seem to know what I know, and so I'm going to give my every effort to get you to see this like I see this. And we say, give it up. Let them see the unicorns. Let them see whatever it is that they want to see, while you see whatever it is that you want to see. Will there be a time that you will see unicorns romping down your street? It is unlikely. Esther has a friend who lives in Australia, and the first time she was in his car, they were driving, and he said, yes, I had another friend in the car, a few of them, Esther knew all of them, and we were driving down this very street, and they said, Leon, where are all the kangaroos? And he said, kangaroos don't just go hopping down the street. And then one did. And so expectation is everything. There are a lot of writers who get into a creative mode where they begin to receive thoughts, and those thoughts are manifestations. And if there is anything that we would like you to hear in this room today, and this very example is going to be a tripping point for some of you, because we want you to let her have her unicorns. We want you to let yourself have them. And just because something hasn't manifested doesn't mean that it can't. You are not miles away from what you want, and you are not years or hours or months or weeks or days away from what you want. You're only vibrations away from what you want. So you have the ability to find a way of focusing that allows. If we were standing in your physical shoes, we would not try to stretch the biological boundaries of this time-space reality. We would not say, all right, prove it to me. I could use 2 more arms. We would start with things that are easy. We would start with things that are easy until we had convinced ourselves that if I have the ability to imagine it, then I have the ability to have a relationship with it, you see. Not as satisfying as some would like. We will not say that they are not real, because our work all day, every day, is to get you to accept this vortex that you cannot see. And who knows what's in there? Everything that you want is in there. It is your work to get into the receptive mode. And so, how far will those things that you have desired or imagined, imagination, that's pretty far down the momentum trail, isn't it? You want it, you've allowed yourself to imagine it, that's a thought that you are realizing. That's a thought that you are realizing. So what stops? What stops the momentum? What keeps the thought that you've imagined from manifesting all the way out? Thoughts that contradict it, period. That's all that it is. Enough?
Yes. Can I ask one more question? It's just about, a while back, I was taking a walk down a road, and some dogs came at me, and I asked God, I was like, help, and I picked up my little poodle, and a car came down the road, appeared practically out of nowhere, and it just pulled up. The guy got out and started throwing rocks at the dogs. He said, just throw rocks at them and they'll go away. And I'm like, okay. So I tried getting in his car because I wanted to be safe, and he wouldn't let me in. And he had a bunch of books and stuff in there, whatever. It was weird. And then, so he took off. He said he lived around that area, and he took off, and then it looks like he disappeared. And I'm like, who? And then I never saw him again, and the rocks worked, and I went home. But I'm just wondering, who was that? And what?
It was a unicorn.
That's what I was thinking. It was my angel.
Whatever you, when you are in a strong place of desire, when your desire is really peaked, your beliefs, even if they are contradictory beliefs, often play a less vibrational role when your desire is very strong. And so this is what we were talking about at the beginning of the day, when we were saying that wherever you are standing, the source who is standing there with you is aware of all things and is always advocating for your well-being, and to the degree that you are allowing it. So don't you think that it is logical that someone who wants and even does believe in unicorns could manifest a white knight in a messy car to help her with the situation? In other words, it's the way that it always works. And the fact that you had no long-term continuity, you didn't see where he came from and you didn't see where he went, which is the way you are with almost everything that you're interfacing with. It doesn't matter where it came from or where it goes. The only thing that ever matters is what you're rendezvousing with, and what you're rendezvousing with is everything about the vibration that you are holding, you see. We think that having your little dog there, your little dog was part of the attraction of the other dogs. Your little dog was the thing that made you feel most protective. In other words, you were wanting to protect your dog even more than you were wanting to protect yourself. But in that very fast-moving moment, it's an indication that your vibration of well-being was stable. And when your vibration of well-being is stable, things materialize out of nowhere in order to assist you. It's just the way it always is. It's the way it always is. There are endless stories, and people have such a hard time. We like having this extreme, harder to accept kind of version, because in a way, everything that we're teaching you is a harder kind of thing to accept kind of version, because we're asking you to work on your vibrational frequency in order to allow things to manifest. But that's because we know that everything comes out of nowhere. There is no reality the way you think there is a reality. Everything is a convergence of vibrational frequencies. And just because you as mass consciousness have adjusted yourself to a certain level of expectation and therefore allowance of what manifests into your experience doesn't mean that there's a whole lot more on the horizon. You're not years away from these discoveries. You're not miles away from these discoveries. You're vibrations away from these discoveries, and you've got emotions within you to let you know how near to them you are. If you would stop talking to others who will talk you out of your crazy wild dreams, if you will stop trying to fit in with the others and justify to them through your normalcy all kinds of what they will call magic that you will come to call normal will occur to you. It is normal that you thrive. It is normal that things always go well for you. It's normal that what you don't want stays away and that what you do want comes in. That's normal. And just because it's not what most people are demonstrating doesn't mean that it's not what's normal, you see. We're off to a really good start here today. We think this is a really good time for a segment of refreshment.
Thank you.